Right.
The last frequent.
I think once we are live. All right.
We are live.
Hello, friends. Thanks a lot for joining in. I'm very, very happy to see a huge, huge response on this particular and very important topic, which is very, very close to heart of all of Marwari Catalyst team, which is emerging Bharat Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities opportunities ahead, which will be a stepping stone for India's economy as well. Right. I am Devesh Rakecha. I'm a chartered accountant by an accidental choice. I'm co-founder and CEO of Yearbook Canvas. I'm also one of the co-founders of Marwari Catalyst. And this lesson is very, very important for all startups and investors and young students as well, because we'll be talking about the financial meltdowns which happened in past, what were the learnings for it from them, and what will be the learning from this financial meltdown because of COVID, and what will be the takeaways, key learnings, and how the plan can be made for upcoming economies. Uh, I'll just quickly introduce our today's speakers. Anish Mehta, sir. Anish, sir, is a chartered accountant. He is also director of Deloitte UAE, and he is chairman of Dubai chapter of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. So one of the most active chapters across globe of CA is Dubai, and it is being led by Anish, sir. And we have Amit Mehta. Amit Mehta, he's a very typical investment banker, I would say. He analyzes things at a very micro level and takes very, very big decisions. He is investment director in a very, very prominent Dubai-based firm, Alaba Enterprises. Uh, Advait Sharma, I think, Advait, are you there? So by the time Advait joins, I'll just introduce about Advait. Advait is partner and international business development management manager in global energy and environmental engineering services. He's also based out of Dubai. And I'll just quickly request all my panel speakers to introduce about themselves, starting with Anish sir, Amit, and Advaita. So that will bring more clarity to all our audience.
Thank you, Devesh, for the opportunity you have given to us. As you said, my name is Anish. I belongs to Jodhpur and have done my graduation in Jodhpur, then moved to Delhi and then to Dubai. So it's been now 14 plus years in Dubai. And obviously the day job is with Deloitte, but the evening and night jobs is with the ICA Dubai chapter, which is one of the largest overseas chapters. Actually, the largest overseas chapters, which has 2,550 Indian chartered accountants. I have to focus on Indian because there are many other chartered accountants, but and in the total UAE, there will be around 6,000 to 7,000 chartered accountants. So Dubai being the most active has got 7 years in row the best chapter awards. With that, the chapter as its objective and vision engages in a lot of professional activities, including workshops, seminars, conferences. Since the time we are in the lockdown from March onwards, we have already organized 25 online sessions. And those in Dubai and are definitely be knowing me. And I think with that short note, I will ask Amit to take over.
Thank you, Anish. Thank you, Desh, for organizing this and giving us an opportunity to talk about what we are doing. So, look, I'm also a chartered accountant from Jodhpur. I started my career with Bharat Petroleum, but within very quick time, I realized that this company is too slow for me, and my passion lies in investment banking and financial services. So I managed to move to Morgan Stanley in the investment banking division. I stayed there for 3 years, and then I got a chance to move to Dubai with Standard Chartered Bank. Here I came to advise our clients on mergers and acquisition. I stayed with Standard Chartered Bank for 4 years, in total 7 years of investment banking and corporate finance experience. I decided to take a plunge into the investing side. So, I mean, till now I was advising others how to do corporate finance. Now it was more about acquiring companies or making investments and sleeping over it. It's a very different ball game. But I thought, okay, let me take an experience into this, and I joined Alabar Enterprises, which is headed by His Excellency Mohammad Alabar, who is the chairman of EMAR. I got a wonderful opportunity to work with him, and since then, it's 6 years now. We have done transaction worth more than $7 billion. So overall, I would like to categorize myself as a very passionate investor who's focused on learning the intricacies of world of how the businesses are done, and in the process earn above average return. So over to you, Advita.
Yeah, thank you, Amit. First of all, thank you, Devesh, and whole team of Marwari Catalyst. So I'm Advait Sharma, and
I
Lost.
think
we lost him.
Advait is having. Yeah, he's having it. We need India Jio to take care of internet issues across the globe now. So we'll just wait for a few seconds, and then we'll begin our
Probably this is because of
Jio.
Yeah, Jio is not letting others prosper.
Yeah. So probably what we'll do once he joins in, we'll allow him to introduce himself, and
yeah.
I think he's just joined. Let's see.
Actually, very interestingly, we were talking that Jio's mantra is "Khud Jio, baki ko manne do."
Yeah,
but he has done something which is remarkable for all startups, particularly. So that's how the business does. We scale up the business with a very good space. We maintain our profitability, and we raise funds to achieve the growth which would have been achieved in next 10 years organically, right? So that's what Jio did. They became one of the largest telecom players across globe, and that they will be doing. After raising this fund, let's see what he is. I think I can see everyone in here. So Advait, can you talk something, because we are not able to.
I think he left again. I think we should start, and then when he joins.
Okay. Yeah. So friends, we'll be talking about financial meltdowns. The meltdowns which are remarkable for great economies to be built. Right. They were challenges at that time, but they brought lots of opportunities for young entrepreneurs, for the whole economy, new emerging economies. Right. So Amit, why don't you quickly just tell our audience and to me as well what happened in 2001 and 2008, and what were the cause of it? And then chip in.
Yeah. So Devesh, look, all the meltdowns are part of economic cycle. After every 8-10 years, you will see the same cycle repeating again and again. It will be just a different sector. So starting with, let's say, 2002-3, that was probably 2001. After the massive crash, 2001-2 was a period of massive despair, massive depression. A lot of people had lost a lot of money, and a lot of businesses went out of the business. But that was a time for some of the visionary investors to put more capex into starting new companies, for the visionary investors to see that, okay, these are the people who know what they're doing, and they would back them. And that would start a new cycle of growth. And then some people, then few more quarters down the line, these very solid companies will start to show some profits. People will, other investors will also see that, will start to join the party. And when people see that, okay, this business is making money, other businesses will also join try to join them and start to compete with them, essentially increasing the supply in the market. When more and more people are making money, more economy is also booming. Retail investors also making money. All of them will continue to join the party. Then over a period of time, what will also happen is there's a false sense of longevity and certainty that anything what you do in this sector, you will end up making money. And more and more people will enter into it. They will continue to invest in it. They will ignore there's something like risk involved. They will lever up to next level. They'll believe that, okay, the demand will come, let us just produce. And demand will be there because the economic activity is pretty high. Retail investors, on the other hand, will probably be the last one to join the party. When everyone has made a lot of money, they will see, okay, everyone is making money, let me also get in, try to make money. But then all of this will lead to massive excesses, some kind of bubble. Valuation will be ignored, leverages, risk, all of these things will be completely ignored, and then there will be some trigger event. It would be some company defaulting or something, and that will all of a sudden realize, make everyone realize that okay, no, there's a very false sense of hype and uncertainty and profitability, which should not be there. And then this would be the period when again the first visionary investors who understand the market well, they will exit the market. They will start selling, and the retail investor will continue to buy, and they will sell, and the retail investor will continue to buy, and they will start holding on to it. And now the economy is turning. As someone should have defaulted somewhere, that will really stop the economic cycle from working. Economic cycle, the banks will stop lending, investors will stop giving money. The economic cycle will be slow. The demand will reduce, but the supply was very high. A lot of these people who were Me Too players who kept going into the industry will face very high difficulty, and they will essentially face insolvencies, bankruptcies. Retail investors, the share prices, the stock markets, everything will continue to crash down, and that it will be a massive situation of despair, depression. Everyone will be in massive losses. But the beauty of this is, after all of this, new cycle will start. In 2001, so if you look at 1995 to 2000, it was the period of tech bubble. Tech, anything that had a tech attached to it was going up like skyrocket without any relationship to the fundamental valuation or economic output of that company. 2001 was massive crash in these tech companies. For 2 years, there was massive despair, depression, nothing moved. But then a new cycle started, and now this cycle was in real economy, commodity, real estate. And there was the time when Unitech moved from very low valuation to 10,000 times or something pretty high, crazy numbers. But again, 2008, some trigger happened in US because of CDOs, etc. US economy started really facing challenges, and the trigger spread all across. All of these companies came crashing down. A lot of Me Too players went bankrupt. And again, you will see that, okay, one more typical thing which happens in market, that the leaders of the first market, which was like tech in 2000, no one really talked about it for next 10 years. And the next cycle, the leaders were real estate, commodity, infrastructure, and they crashed big time, or 80-90% reduction in their share prices. And no one would talk about it for the next decade. And then after that, after a few years, another bull run started with Modi coming to power in 2014. And now the leaders of this bull market were financial services firms, NBFCs, small cap and mid cap companies. And now 2018, the same thing happened again. They were like, so till 2017, all of these NBFCs were trading at like 10 times book, 12 times book. It was just crazy. 2018, all of that crashed. IL&FS defaulted, DHFL defaulted, Yes Bank, a lot more players defaulted. And then after that, like the cycle keeps going on. Now again, we were very close to recovery, started recovering, and then COVID came. But again, there will be another sector, another cycle, another way businesses and investors are going to repeat the same mistake. All of this just creates a lot of opportunity for someone who is able to see all of this.
Wonderful.
Great.
Anish sir, so like, what are your thoughts on the last two financial meltdowns? Like, I believe you were also working at that time in 2008. We all were working, right? What were your thoughts on?
That's the time when I actually was in Dubai, a little new. While we will discuss with Amit that what we can look for the next 10 years so that we can invest in that and then exit just out before the meltdown. But before going to 2001, 2008, the current figures which are coming because of the COVID situation, and there is a report in the Economic Intelligence Unit that the US economy, which held the #1 position for the 149 years, is now facing a 3.5% dip in their GDP. While China is also facing the dip, but they will still be able to recover and increase their GDP by 1% instead of 5.9% projected earlier, which will bring China very closer to the #1 position much faster than the expected. The global economy, which will suffer a loss of 3.3% decrease, Plus, it will also hive off 2.3% expected growth, which means a total of 6.6% of total growth of the world global GDP of 142 trillion, which means $9.4 trillion loss is expected because of this COVID meltdown, which is more than the GDPs of several countries, and probably 3 times of the GDP of India. So this massive impact, this meltdown is happening. But when we move back to 2001, 2008, I think 2001 was not that severe as 2008. 2001 was mainly because of 2 reasons. One was basically the contributor. One was the attack on the US, and the second thing was the Y2K scare. The Y2K scare, which was prior to 2000, people were thinking all computers will go burst. They will not be usable because the last 2 digits were only captured for the year. So a lot of shopping happened prior to 2000, but after 2000, when nothing happened, a lot of companies were almost on the verge of bankruptcy. And what Amit has said, the bubble, that .com bubble was busted. 2008, again, that was, I think, the biggest global financial crisis after the Great Depression of 1930s. That again, the contributing factors were 2 mainly because of lot of savings. People were having low interest rates. So a lot of people were investing in the assets. The financial institutions were also giving the loans based on the subprime lending. They were not keeping adequate collaterals. And because of that, banks and other financial institutions were taking massive risk. And we all know that what happened to Lehman Brothers after that. So that again was given as a real estate bubble, you can say, or a housing bubble. So these were the 2001, 2008, but the 2020, when we'll talk, I think it's totally different than 2001, 2008. And a lot more problems will happen because of 2020 COVID bubble.
Got it. So, sir, just wanted to ask, like I was in Morgan Stanley in 2008. So like the last financial meltdown was 2008. It was very bad for more particularly for financial companies. I was in Morgan Stanley and I saw departments being shut, people being fired, and a whole lot of chaos, right? And Amit, I think Amit has also lost.
Yeah.
What were you doing at that time? And how did you observe that thing?
Before Devesh, sorry.
So just one more thing, it's my mistake. We'll talk in Hindi and English because we have got a wonderful. वो ज्यादा अच्छा रहेगा ताकि सबको सब समझ में भी आ जाए और इस सेशन में कुछ अच्छा सीखने को मिले हमारे न्यू एंटरप्रेन्योर्स को एज वेल.
राइट. तो अमित, जस्ट 2 पॉइंट्स जो कि मैंने मिस कर दिए थे. 2001 when it happened, it gives to a new definition to the risk management. You know, Sarbanes-Oxley Act उस टाइम पे इनेक्ट किया गया in July 30th, 2002, and which everyone knows that all the US companies, all the listed US companies have now to follow. Because I'm from the accounting world, I should also give something that what accounting reforms were happened because of that bubbles. So, and now more and more companies, more and more listed companies are following that internal control over financial reporting based on the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. 2008, when it happened, it again introduced new financial reporting standards. As we all know, the international financial reporting standards use karta hai, IFRS 9 has come into impact. And all the financial instruments, when we talked about that expected credit loss, are based, when we talked about the credit loss, are based on the expected credit loss model, which were earlier based on actual model. What does that mean? That means that now you don't have to look at the current situation. You also need to be forward-looking. You also need to take into account when you provide for the thing. You also have to take macroeconomic factors which are playing in the market. And for that, lot of estimation judgments are to be used by the management.
Okay. So, Amit, what were you doing in 2008? I just asked Anish sir as well. So, like, I remember you were also in Morgan Stanley. And वो जो 2008 का समय था, I remember it's the most depressing period for me. मेरा just job चालू हुआ था और departments बंद हो रहे थे, कंपनियां बंद हो रही थी, right? At the same time, businesses भी बंद हो रहे थे. तो आप क्या कर रहे थे 2008 में और आपकी क्या लर्निंग थी?
So 2008, I think I joined Morgan Stanley in 2007. ज्वाइन करने के साल भर बाद तक बहुत मेहनत करी, मतलब 2008 भी बिगनिंग तक काफी बहुत मेहनत चलती रही, पर अचानक से आके पता चलता है कि भाई जिस लोग काम कर रहे थे उन लोग अभी नहीं है ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में. एंड it was a very desperate period. We were that close to bankruptcy. Morgan Stanley was that close to bankruptcy. They were like, at the time, they were around like 4 or 5 investment banks. Lehman was insolvent. Merrill Lynch was merged into another company, and next was Morgan Stanley. And we were just that close. 3 more days, if we hadn't signed a deal, we would have been bankrupt, and all of us would have lost jobs. Was a wonderful experience. There's a brilliant book written on it, Too Big to Fail. I mean, so wonderful experience. Honestly, when you pass through downturns, I believe that downturns teach you way more than any normal day.
True.
That's when you are stressed to the core. That's when you are stressed. All the risk management, everything comes in picture. Downturns makes a difference between who is man versus who is a boy, and like you clearly see who is strong, who is not, and it was like a very like beginning of my career, and went in directly into a downturn, pretty hard. But honestly, coming out of it, it was quite relaxing for next 10 years. But yeah, look, these are economic cycle. These things will always come and go. You just need to constantly learn and keep moving up.
एब्सोल्युटली ट्रू, एब्सोल्युटली ट्रू. मतलब है ना, आई रेड इट समवेयर के है ना, कोविड-19 और या कोई भी मेल्टडाउन होता है वो है ना एक एग्जैक्टली एक इंसान को रिवील करता है. जिसको कंप्लेन करनी होगी वो अभी भी कंप्लेन करता रहेगा इवन आफ्टर कोविड-19, एंड देयर विल बी फ्यू पीपल हु आर स्टिल फाइटिंग एंड विल ग्रो आफ्टर कोविड-19 मेल्टडाउन. दैट्स व्हाट आई रेड समवेयर. अनीश सर, योर टेक ऑन दिस.
देवेश, जैसा कि अमित ने बोला that every downfall teaches us this the lesson, and that is actually true, because जब downfall होता है तो everything comes to the bottom or the base, and to rise from the base it's much easier than always rise from the peak further. So in 2008 when I was there, because I came to Dubai 2004 में आया था मैं, और 2008 में when this happened, obviously as an auditor lot of work has increased, because again when this downturns comes into picture, if in terms of accounting, the biggest issue is of the going concern, and to prove that to prove entity is a going concern, the auditors को बहुत सारे additional procedures करने पड़ते हैं, which management generally don't appreciate, because उनका काम बढ़ जाता है. And sometimes management सही भी होता है, because only people can take guesses. No one knows what lies in the future. जो आजकल नया वर्ड कॉइन हो रहा है, वूका, वॉलेटिलिटी, अनसर्टेनिटी, कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी एंड एम्बिग्विटी, these all are actually troubling professional as well as business persons, because the world is becoming so dynamic, and to estimate the future is really next to impossible. No one thought that COVID will come, but at least 2001 or 2008 के जो meltdown थे, there was some base forming, and after that they were busted. But 2020 is totally different. No one thought, and it suddenly erupted out of nothing.
Got it. So like I was about to ask how and why 2001 and 2008 meltdowns are different from 2020 meltdown, and you answered it very aptly. It came out of sudden. The world stopped, and everybody is where they were in March or somewhere, right? So probably it's one of the longest year with so many decades in one particular year of 2020. Amit, just one thing, like you have been investing in lots of companies, and you are working very close with the CEOs and the top management of the different companies, right, across globe, I would say. So what, according to you, the key learnings from 2001 and 2008, and what are the learnings which should be there for startup buddies, particularly startup entrepreneurs, from 2020 meltdown?
Could you repeat the first question? I couldn't hear that.
Okay, so my question is, I wanted to ask how 2001 and 2008 meltdowns are different from 2020, which Anish sir explained. It came out of the sudden, and the world actually stopped. At the same time, it gave a good time to everyone to introspect and understand why and what they want to do. Like most of the people, they are able to find their why, right? So my question to you is, what were the learnings from 2001? मतलब 2001 और 2008 का जो meltdown था, उससे क्या learning है from the perspective of startup founders? And it's like rather you have been investing in different companies and you are working very closely with top management of the companies, right? So with that respect, what is the learning from 2001, 2008, and what should be the learning from 2020?
So look, okay, the biggest difference I see 2001 and 2008, there was a lot more certainty. We understood what is happening. Like in let's say a quarter's time, we were aware, okay, this is what is happening. These are the companies which will go bankrupt. This is how this should pan out. Maybe after a year, the economy will settle down. The businesses will start to rise again. There was a lot more certainty. We could clearly stare at the bankruptcies, but still, who will survive, who will not survive was fairly clear. The worst thing with COVID is no one has any clarity. This is different than whatever has happened ever in the past. I mean, a lot of people have done a lot of research. We have read a lot of books, try to go back into every single meltdown that happened during the last century. Nothing is like this. The problem is, I'll tell you, March, the first problem that started coming was of the supply. The China is not able to ship. Then Europe went into lockdown. Again, they couldn't ship and we can't import. The supply issue. But then very quickly we realized, okay, no, this is much more than that. Businesses are getting locked down. In a lockdown, there's a demand issue. Okay, and after that, once it is opening now, then the issues are now operational. We don't know how to take care of the employees every time. Like if the employees are coming to work, they are getting infected and they are getting quarantined. So the challenges are constantly coming. Again, after this, we don't know when this will start. Well, when this is gonna stop. How long is this COVID issue? How is this gonna impact us economically? Right, so it is a very uncertain environment, and what Anish Bhai said about like volatility, except VUCA. What was that? Anish Bhai have heard this first time, but then this is an amazing concept. This is exactly the problem. We don't know what is happening, how the businesses will be impacted, how long will it take for anyone to come out. Okay, and how? And I'll tell you. Every downturn, investors and entrepreneurs make the same mistake. Every downturn. Okay, if there's a river which is let's say on average 5 feet deep, if you are 6 feet tall, would you cross it on your feet? If a river is just 5 feet on average deep, you won't, because it could be 4 feet deep at some places, it could be 7 feet deep in some other places. If you cross it, and you will not be able to cross, and you will die in middle. And what businesses assume is they will always have access to liquidity, access to capital, demand will always be very high, and they don't save for a long winter. And they don't assume that, okay, maybe bank will not be able to fund us for 3 months. How do we protect us? The US had a lot of excess liquidity in the current market. What everyone did was take loans and do buybacks. All the airlines, they never saved anything for I mean, if some of these companies are going bankrupt, it is not because of the market or environment. It is because they were never careful. So for me, look, it is very simple. Let's keep it very simple. Like businesses should stay away from leverage. They should focus on unit economics. They need to build a very robust business model which is not dependent on outside capital. And okay, and startups, one of the biggest things which I don't understand or I don't like is they play the valuation game. Okay, let me just grow the business, let me get investors' money, and they just forget about the unit economics and the profitability. Like again, every now and then you will have these downturns which will clearly tell you, no, it is all about cash flow. These are the times then the capital wouldn't be available. If you have cash flow, then you will survive. Otherwise, you will be like OYO or WeWorks or a lot of other companies like Uber. I mean, they are surviving, but then they will have massive losses. If you don't focus on cash flow, this is what is going to happen to you. And one important thing, understand where you are in the cycle. Are you at the bottom or are you at the top? And I invest accordingly. And for investors, the basic learning is stay away from people who or stay away from entrepreneurs who don't understand all the above.
Very aptly put, Amit. Very, very aptly put. Right. Even I'd been observing few startups, and I firmly believe that post COVID-19 is over. the real businesses will survive. And like if there's any bubble, it will burst. And for investors, it will be a wonderful opportunity to earn more money by investing into those startups, which are real businesses. And for those founders who actually want to do something big, they'll be able to do. So, Anish, sir, what's your thought on this?
Yeah, I think very good points put in by Amit. I would in fact say, even for startup or for any other business,
Right.
I'll just quote 2 lines which Jeff Bezos has wrote in the Forbes article, because a lot of information is flowing nowadays because of this social media or technology connectivity. He says that overcoming analytic paralysis in the military, it doesn't matter in which direction you choose to move when you are under a mortar attack. Just so long as you move, decisions are never final, for the simple fact that change is never absolute, which means you don't have to sit idle. You need to analyze the situation, and you need to do something which will take your business to the great heights. For any startup or any business, there are basically 3 main assets which everyone should be able to sustain it. One is the money, access to capital. So they should find out the ways how they can have access to capital. If the capital is already infused, how they can save it, what expenditure they can curtail, which are the unnecessary expenditure. They should try to control that. The second thing, or important part which any startup has, as Amit also says, a know-how or a specific expertise. You don't have to leave that specific expertise after a certain level. Once you develop something, you find investor and you forget it. That absolutely, you need to develop, nurture it to the extent that it gives you more valuation and more profits at a later date. Because the expertise of the know-how is something which no one can take from you. And the third and the most important part is the team or the people. The people who has helped you in the past to develop you, you should not deprive them of any benefits when you are in the crisis. You try to talk to them, you try to manage them. They will be with you. And once the things grows up, I think a lot of benefits will come to the same set of people who have experience and whom you have made experience to. 5 action steps which every startup should take is taking action and moving forward, which means don't sit idle. This situation is going to continue. So understand the situation, understand the analysis, and try to do something which takes your business to the next level. Keeping up with legislation is something which every business should do. Nowadays, some rules or some changes are coming either by the government or by the regulatory authority. Try to analyze what is important for your business and try to work accordingly. Third is finding balance and achieving a very healthy mindset. So we all know there is a time of intense emotions and particularly negative emotions. So don't go into the trap of negative emotions, and try to de-stress yourself and do best to help your employees as well as the customers, because ultimately customer is what is going to increase your business. Third is, I think I've discussed earlier, is dealing with lot of information overload. What is necessary for you, what is not important for you, you have to try to analyze that information, which can help you grow your business. And fifth point is anything that selecting the right focus. This is the time when you have some additional time to think where you want to take your business to. So try to grow your business into something which you have expertise on. So these are my take, what entrepreneurs or what a startup should do.
Yes, so that's a wonderful points. Like I've noted on very closely. I'll be working upon my startups on your points as well, and I'll ensure that we grow business together and build ecosystem in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. Adwaita, can you hear us? I think you again disappeared.
As soon as you say Adwaita, he goes away.
Yeah, so probably there's some issue with internet over there. I think
there is some issue with you. Every time you ask him to speak, he goes away.
I take blame on myself. Like I won't have any issue on that. Thank you, Amit, for this wonderful blame. So just kidding. Like because of COVID, right? We have been talking, like Marwari Catalyst has an aim to build startup ecosystem in tier 2 and tier 3 cities, which will be a very, very important stepping stones for Indian economy.
So Devesh, can I take the opportunity to ask you a question? So you are on the ground, you are doing a lot of work on the ground. What are you seeing? How is the investor community as well as entrepreneur community behaving, and what are the key learnings and from your end?
All right. So okay, so I'll share my thoughts on it. First few like first 10-15 days was a very normal thing for me during COVID. ठीक है हो रहा है, it will end someday, right? So we Marwari Catalyst Group and associated Slummy, we started working upon our strategy. It was a time given by the God, and we realized that that time should be placed properly, very positively. So we worked upon our technology, we worked on our strategy, we worked upon our teams, SOPs, and things were wonderful during COVID. And we were lucky to raise a good fund during COVID as well. We did not announce it because that was not a very huge fund, but it was a very relatively good strategic investment. The best thing about this lockdown was I'd been saying, and I firmly say this on screen as well today, that COVID is going to end. It is going to end for sure, right? I see people on road as if there was nothing in Jodhpur. And when I watch videos of Mumbai, Delhi, and metro cities and some other parts of India, people have actually forgotten what was COVID few days ago, right? The moment COVID is away, right? It has to go. It has to go because as we are talking about the cycle, financial cycle, right? Once any country reaches to peak, it will come down. India will eventually come out of COVID, right? I firmly believe that there will be a wonderful opportunity for please correct me wherever I'm wrong, right? Lots of people will be moving into forced entrepreneurship. Lots of people will be asked to leave jobs. There will be huge supply of human resource in industry, and there will be less of demand. This will be an opportunity for very serious businessmen to start their own journey of entrepreneurship. B, for investors, this will be the time where they'll be able to get wonderful startups which will actually grow from here. That's my sense on COVID-19. Please share your opinions as well.
Amazing.
I think I agree, because what we are seeing in UAE or anywhere else, lot of SMEs are under tremendous stress, and some of them will survive. Where my advice is to, like what we see in the audit also, we ask them to draw 12 months cash forecast so that they can know where the liquidity will come from and how they will utilize that liquidity. But lot of will not be able to sustain, even though there will be support, but it won't be enough to meet even their fixed cost. So a lot of that businesses will be available up for sale. And as you rightly said, those who are serious businessmen who wants to start and has certain liquidity, now the valuations are to the extent they are reachable to them, so they can invest in those businesses and take it forward. I think we have Advait now with us.
Yeah. Oh, finally you can see me.
Yeah, we can hear you. So quickly, if you can introduce yourself and what's your take on COVID-19, more particularly for start, right. Tier 2 cities and tier 3 cities.
I'm eager to speak quickly so that before I get disconnected. First of all, I was feeling like Mr. India. I could see everyone and speaking everyone, but no one can see me.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was a So first of all, to give a brief about me, I'm Advait Sharma and a partner in International Business Development Manager at G3S. We help the businesses in two wings. One is into energy and environmental engineering consulting services, and the other is management consulting or raising investments or corporate services or business expansion of the companies. So we have quite big clients like ADNOC, ENOC, Viva and all, which are from Dubai governments here, as well as we also have startups coming from different geographies who want to venture here or Europe or other geographies. I would like to say that yes, as Amit ji said, that it is part and parcel of the economy, because economy is like a train running around, and sometimes it gets derailed because of some or the other factors. The factors could be, it could be like the gap in demand and supply, or it might be even psychological gaps, right? So demand and supply gaps would be more like, you can say right now, because of COVID, there is a demand and supply gap in the luxury, in the tourism sector, travel sector, and that keeps the piling up of the stocks, right? And those stocks then becomes a headache for the companies, how to get rid of them. So those kind of things get burden on the economy. Like in the current scenario as well, if you see luxury market or some of the other companies have stocks piled up in the warehouses, and they come regularly to us saying that, we don't need to get rid of these. Can you get rid of our chocolates and this and that? These are not getting sold right now, getting expired. The second are psychological things, which are like, hysterical or fear of economy getting burst or bubble getting burst. So as you said rightly, Amit ji and Anish ji, 2008 was more of demand and supply kind of recession or a meltdown, and 2001 was more of a psychological kind of meltdown. So one can also influence the other. And right now we see that it's going on psychological because of COVID. Every day 150,000 people anyway used to die even before COVID. Right now it's like 400, 500,000 people in the world dying in 4-5 months or 3-4 months. So the hysteria and the people is quite more than the actual deaths and actual disease. And this is also causing the demand and supply gaps.
Wonderful, wonderfully put, Advait. Amit, what's your opinion? Like how COVID-19 is going to impact tier 2 and tier 3 cities of India? Because the whole vision of this event is this: emerging Bharat, tier 2 and tier 3 cities growth.
So look, Devesh, let me take it in like a slightly, let me answer it, your question in a slightly different manner. Okay, it is a difficult time for almost everyone, right? As an individual, as businesses, as countries, as economies, and as tier 2, tier 3 cities. So as an individual, a lot of us are going to lose job. A lot of us are going to be at home. How can you differentiate as compared to your colleagues or anyone else, right? So one of my mentors once taught me one thing. Amit, at the end of the year, you don't see that you were foolish beginning of the year, then you haven't learned enough in that year. And that is the motto I work on. And that is like essentially every year you should be reading so much, you should be applying so much in your job, business, whatever you do, so that you learn a lot. And by end of the year, you are better off. Whether you are in a job or not, or doing something else, whatever, if you're learning, then your progress is continuous. And that thing applies to everyone. If in a business, if it is a difficult time, figure out what is it that you need to do to really up the game. But keep cutting costs as drastically as possible. Cut the cost, manage your cash flows, avoid any kind of unnecessary expenditure, increase the longevity of your business, and try to invest in the sectors which can generate revenue. So move the cost from unessential items to essential items, which is going to bring the business. And once that is sorted, try to improve the profile of the business. And once the downturn is over, you will see that a lot of competition is gone. Okay, if the economy had 100 players, I can tell you like 20, 30 of them are not going to be there when the economy again opens up again in a proper manner. And so what are you doing? You are essentially, if you survive this, you will be one of the very few servicing the customers, and you should be able to make a lot of money. The same thing applies to investors as well. Look, this is a time that you must be everyone should be sitting on a lot of losses, as opposed to completely exiting, selling everything and exiting the markets. Try to understand what happened. Try to read as much as possible. Understand who are the survivors of this market, because a lot of people will go out and the remaining, we should make a lot of money. So in my job, this is exactly what I'm doing. Just trying to understand who are the big players who will survive this and who will benefit out of COVID, and we are trying to bet on them. And even for like, okay, when it comes to tier 2, tier 3 cities, okay, Generally, I would say all the inorganic players, all the smaller ones, should be impacted negatively because they tend to have less availability of cash flows or less availability of bank funding or investors, right? And all the big businesses should take benefit because they have access to all of these things way better than smaller players. So tier 2, tier 3 cities should actually be like more on the receiving end, but at the same time, bigger companies, bigger cities should be way more effective because that's where the big money is made and that's where the big money is lost. Tier 2, tier 3 cities should continue to have their normal routine. And when it comes to entrepreneurship, look, I'm not a believer of where an entrepreneur should come from. It doesn't need to be from any particular place. It is up to a person. Like all of us are from Jodhpur, sitting at different places in the world. I don't think if we were from Bangalore or Bombay, we would have ended up doing anything different. Right. It is, and what Marwari Catalyst is doing in Jodhpur, I'm really proud of you guys. You are really bringing a lot of accessibility to very good talent in Jodhpur, to a lot of things what an entrepreneur should be doing. I mean, I've learned a lot of things from my grandfather, my father, which if you ask me today, this is what like any solid businessman would do, like focus on cash flows. I mean, my father will always say, "Rokda kahan pe hai?" A lot of things like leverage mat lo. Loan still in my family is like a prohibited term. Why nahi loan mat lo? Cash hai to kharch karo, nahi to paisa bachao. These are like very basic tenets of a Marwari family, which we have learned from our forefathers. And this is what is required for any successful entrepreneur. And what you guys are doing is bringing like a very real kind of tech world or entrepreneurialist, like giving an organization to these raw skills is a wonderful scheme that Marwari Catalyst is doing. And I'm sure you guys are going to be very successful, and all the people who are associated with you are going to learn a lot.
Yeah, thank you, Amit. Thanks for this wonderful note. Just to let the world know that Amit is also one of the investors in Marwari Catalyst. He has shown his positive note on Marwari Catalyst, and he's one of the guiding light for the group
earlier
because of your expertise. No, I was waiting for the right point. So, all right. So, Advaita, a quick closing point. I would want to listen positive impact on tier 2 and tier 3 cities of COVID, and then we'll wrap up this session because we have to start the next, and then I don't want to delay the last one.
Yeah.
Sure. Let's do the mic check. Everyone can listen to me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So coming to this particular point, Devesh, I would say it's just wow. And it's an amazing time right now that all these startups or all these communities can move around to tier 2, tier 3 cities, or in the Himalayas, somewhere in the Uttarakhand where there is internet, right? Because when I was in Netherlands and working in Europe, I learned one thing, that entrepreneurs or startups or the companies are not and should not be limited to specifically to the tier 1 cities. This increases the burden of the cities and is not at all sustainable. The resources have to be moved there all the time. Let it be food has to be transported from village to the cities and all the commodities. And that's not at all sustainable. A lot of loss happens during those things. If you have a good internet, and like Jio is doing fine, as you were saying, when I got disconnected. So yes, those kind of factors are really going to take the digital nomads and IT companies specifically, or the e-commerce, to go out somewhere in the tier 2 or tier 3. And that will be a boon to the economies. In the US, already this happened 10 years back. The entrepreneurs and businesses were moving to the tier 2 cities. In India, we follow also sometimes like West, and our thinking also is inspired in some or the other way sometimes. It's like a global community. So I believe that would also bring a big shift in India. That's what my point. And of course, COVID gave an opportunity to look into beautiful things like AirMeet, where we could all gather over a networking event like this online, rather than being into a hotel or somewhere, which burns out money and cash. Although internet should be good, I think Dubai should improve for that. In my case, they say 5G, but not at all 5G.
Well, so you cannot blame Dubai because other two people are also from Dubai. So you cannot blame that.
Okay, business bay.
All right. So,
Right.
it was, thank you, Anish sir. Thank you, Amit. Thank you, Advaita, for having you. I'll just quickly wrap up.
Thank you.
I firmly believe the wonderful times are up ahead for startups, investors, and the globe. More particularly, Indian economy, and even in Indian economy, tier 2 and tier 3 cities. That's what we firmly believe. We have been working as a Marwari Catalyst and all our startups. And thank you for your time. Thank you for your wonderful insights. I'm skipping few questions because we need to start our next session, and then we have an amazing session after our next session. So thank you, guys.
But Devesh, I just want to close with a positive
Yes, sir.
thought.
Please, sir.
So success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. So keep continuing doing this good work, and thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your positive.
Amazing, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Amit. Thank you, Advaita.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you, Devesh. Thank you, Anish.